I am your partner, no more, no less.
He is my partner and also my lover.
Why on earth are you still here? Are you not mentally disturbed enough yet? Has the centrifugal force generated by Professor Tolkien rotating in his grave not pushed you away from this television show? No? Well then, it would appear that we have an episode to laugh at. Episode 5, to be precise. As always, if you've missed any of the previous episodes that I've covered, I will leave links to those videos in the pinned comment down below. Also, feel free to reply to that comment with your bug-eating status. Your overlords are most curious. Do you eat the bugs?
No, I do not.
When will you eat the bugs? And let's start today by taking a quick look at Rings of Power Season 2's viewing figures. In other words, how many retards still have an Amazon Prime subscription? The outlet G writes... yes, the bastion of cultural commentary. G. I've never heard of this G, but nevertheless. They write, Amazon's Rings of Power Season 2 viewer numbers might not be as great as they seem. Well, I wasn't aware that anyone was under the illusion that they were, but there we go. Remember Season 1? Where in the final episode of that season, they finally forged the rings that the show itself was named after? Yeah, well, only a third of those people who started watching the show actually stuck around for that. Has $1 billion. Buys Lord of the Rings. Makes television show about those rings. No one watches Rings. Rings of Power Season 2 has reached 40 million viewers globally in just 11 days. My, that's quite a few. Tell me, G, everyone's favourite outlet, where do these figures come from? I will accept any source other than Amazon. This data comes from Amazon. Ah, right. So what they actually mean is around about 10 people. Which for Rings of Power would still be pretty impressive. Anyway, enough of that nonsense, and on to episode 5, which surely can't get any worse than episodes 1 through 4, right?
No way. We got you. Not a chance. Not this time.
Now, make sure you're sitting down. Don't faint, because I am actually going to start this video with a compliment. It is my first compliment of the season, but I am nothing if not wildly impartial. Okay, I might be slightly biased, but this shot genuinely looks great. The perspective is fabulous. I actually really like this shot. And what I think they've done is, I think they've composited 2 separate shots. There's a macro shot of the rings with Durin's hand. This means that the focal length between the lens and the subject is very small, giving the subject this big, imposing look. And they've composited that with a second standard shot of Durin, which they've added a subtle bit of Gaussian blur to increase the depth of the image. And with the direction of light in the shot, the shadows on his left-hand side can help to hide the blend between the 2 shots. It's quite clever and it's very well done. Having said that, I still don't buy into the high production value of this show. The one compliment everyone likes to throw out about the show is, oh, but it looks wonderful. But it doesn't. The majority of it is still CG and it just doesn't look right. I hate it. Having watched the Peter Jackson trilogy and all of the practical work that went into making it, as a Lord of the Rings fan, I am simply not willing to give up that standard for some garbage blue screen background swaps. This show's budget is immeasurably bigger than the Peter Jackson trilogy, and they're spaffing all of that money on flashy CG. And what little practical effects and scenes and props they do have are mid at best. Look at Arondir's armour, for example, which is clearly just a piece of neoprene glued to his chest. And the tree of Linden just reminds me of that big plastic tree you get in mothercare stores.
Pity those who dwell above, slaves to the sun, chained to a ceaseless rhythm of waking and sleep. We bring the sun to us.
Ah, pity the fool who needs sunlight. Also, we need sunlight. That is some serious dwarf copium right there.
Much of the misery of men is of their own making.
Yeah, try telling that to Patrick McKay and the other guy that makes Rings of Power, Dermot O'Leary. I can't remember his name. Also, cooking. You've heard of it, right? You know, not cooking as in C-O-O-K-I-N-G, cooking as in C-U-C-K. That kind of cooking. It is it's the act of the emasculated beta male. In fact, it is the reveling in that very emasculation. And it seems to be appearing a lot within this show, and tends to happen to a lot of the male characters. Boy, who saw that coming? But the thing is, I see that as antithetical not only to some of Tolkien's characters, but to Tolkien's very ethos. Isildur, aka the King of Gondor, aka High King of the Dunedain, aka Sauron's Nailtech, has since been reduced to Sir Cock of Simplington, crawling around after a girl who quite literally stabbed him in the leg. Kemen, the nobleman of Numenor, who did not exist in the books, has been created by Amazon exclusively to get cooked at each and every turn by each and every character. Theo has to grab grapple with the fact that Don Lemonless is his new stepfather. Durin is constantly being pushed between his father and his wife. And although he's not young, let's not forget about Celebrimbor, the Master Smith, the Lord of Eregion, aka one of the biggest elven chads, who now apparently likes pina coladas, getting caught in the rain, and frequenting the Videl Sassoon elven salon. Amazon are either trying to intentionally dilute the masculinity that can be found within the works of Tolkien, or the people responsible for making this show had little to no testosterone in the first place, and that soy has leaked into the very show itself. Either way, we've ended up with a show that is... how'd you put it? Gay! Gil-galad then receives a letter from Celebrimbor informing him that he's going to close the forge after the success of the 3 Elven Rings. We of course know that this is a cover for his and Anatar's secret forging of the other rings, but it's not a very plausible reason, is it? Right, so the thinking is, society has reached an apex, therefore cease all domestic manufacturing and stop any kind of societal advancement. Yeah, that makes sense. And now I come to think of it, that's actually kind of like what we've been doing in the UK for the past few decades. So, yeah, that's a bit real. Anyway, we now catch up with Lindon's area manager, Gil-galad. Question is he doing something other than standing around looking scornful?
Our armada is ready to depart. What are we waiting for?
Wow, what a change of pace. He's only been doing that since Season 1, Episode 1 started.
If we are to invade, we must leave now.
Who the hell is this? And what's given her credence to address the High King that way? No one would ever talk to him like that. Just out of curiosity, any military personnel watching this, what would happen, do you think, if you addressed your superior officer in this way? Let me rephrase that. What would happen if you told your superior officer what to do? I'd hazard a guess that you'd be told to shut the fuck up immediately. At the very least. Is there not one man left in this show?
And this... it feels somehow like cheating.
So, Disa is now salty that Durin used the power of his ring to determine where in the mines to dig, rather than rely on the women's folk to sing to the rocks. But she seems to be forgetting the fact that he had to do that because they couldn't do their job in the first place. They literally had one job and couldn't do it. Although modern corporate structures might suggest otherwise, the person who is better at doing a job tends to get the job over the person who cannot do that job. It's called meritocracy. It's a brilliant thing. Disa is saying that the very survival of her kind isn't worth pursuing if she can't suck at her job in the process. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Also, thank you, Amazon, and dem rangs of power, for inventing a new dwarven masturbatory ritual.
Ring tribute, he calls it. Ring tribute.
Also, I thought that Anatar was supposed to be a master manipulator and was known to say things that people wanted to hear.
For a moment, you seemed her perfect likeness.
Whose likeness?
My Lady Galadriel's, of course.
You look just like Galadriel has to be one of the most offensive things you could say to someone in the Rings of Power universe. That is just appalling. You're not going to be coercing anyone anytime soon with that kind of chat, mate. So, there is strife within Númenor between the newly appointed king and Elendil and his gang of boys who believe that the sea is always right. Elendil is then almost immediately drowned in that very sea that is always right, of course. But then, having bested the guy that just tried to drown him and upon failing doing that attempted to cut him up with a sword, he drops the sword at that very guy's feet and then turns his back to him. Gee, I wonder what could possibly happen.
Our captain.
Guys, this is so strange. Literally the only guy in this show with even half a centimetre of backbone, and they write him to do one of the dumbest things you could possibly do in a combat scenario, even though he's military and absolutely would know better. But never mind, because he turns his back to someone with a weapon and gets himself stabbed in the back. This isn't an emotionally impactful scene. You sit there thinking, well, yeah, you deserve it, you unmitigated dumbass. And it would appear that Celebrimbor and his new boy toy aren't quite done with flirting with one another just yet.
We plunged straight on. Even deeper into the maelstrom.
Well, I definitely don't want to find out what that means. Whoa, look at all those orcs getting ready to attack Eregion. It would be a terrible shame if they didn't all get to go home to their quaint little orc families with their little teeny tiny orc babies. Wouldn't that be a shame, guys? That would just be terrible, wouldn't it? Guys, this really makes you think. Hey, look! That's the actual Orc family man from the other episode.
Must we go to war again?
Hold on. Don't tell me that Mr. Family Man Orc over here suddenly has some sort of moral awakening and then helps Galadriel escape from the captivity of the orcs. Don't be doing these things to me. I don't know if I would go as far to say that this was the worst episode so far, but my god, if it wasn't the most boring. This episode, and I say this without hyperbole, has just been a straight hour of people frowning at each other. Celebrimbor frowning at Anatar, Elendil frowning at his daughter, Disa frowning at Durin, Durin frowning at Durin, this guy also frowning at Durin, Kemen is in a constant state of cocked and is therefore constantly frowning, and Gilgalad is frowning at just about everyone, really. And no doubt the audience watching it feels quite the same. Well, that just about does it for episode 5. Join me next week for episode 6, and I'll see you then. Take care, guys. That was remarkably boring. And as always, a big shout out to the patrons and the channel members. These are the top tiers, the Knights of Lore. This is Michael Turpia, Posabon, Flunky, Daggerdy69, nice, Jax, Koss, Michael Myson, Texas Lawman, ATS, Saint Nemo, Steve the Goat, the Grand Admiral, Jordan96, and Patrick Coyne. To each and every one of you, I thank you for serving the realm. Of course, a big thank you to the tier 2s and a big thank you to Kidnap Tiger for renewing your membership. Thank you once again for becoming a member. It's great to have you. And of course, a big thank you to all of the tier 1s on the list as well. I can't thank each and every one of you enough for supporting me here on this channel. Thanks, guys. And there we go. Another day, another video. Will you join me for my next one? You better do. You little bitch. But until then, take care, and I'll see you very soon.